greatest in the world of sports. This is Chalk Them Up.
Welcome back to Chalk Them Up on WPGU 107.1.
You're listening to Chalk Them Up on WPGU 107.1. We're going to bring on Peter King right now. Peter, how you doing?
Hey, everything's going good. Yourself?
Going great. So you've been all over this Peyton Manning thing this week. You've been tweeting about it, really been on top of the reports. If you're Jim Irsay right now, are you regretting the contract you gave Peyton Manning?
Well, I think the Colts were in a very tough situation. I mean, they allowed the contract to expire, which is not that tough a situation. But once the contract expires, you then have to make a choice. We're committing to this guy. He's been our franchise, and we're committing to him into the future. So obviously, you look at it right now in retrospect, and you say, well, it's ridiculous to have paid him the money we paid him, without, I guess I would say with the benefit of hindsight, clearly you don't want to pay him that money. But at the time, if you don't pay him the money, what are you saying to Peyton Manning about everything he's done for you and everything that you think he's going to do for you in the future? Now, remember this. This is something that hasn't gotten very wide publicity or very wide attention. You know, Bill Polian told me that this injury was actually suffered during off-season workouts. This was not a carryover injury from the end of the football season. And so when this surgery was done, doctors told Polian and told his son, Chris, the general manager, and told Jim Irsay, in essence, that this is a maintenance procedure, and he's still going to play several years more in the NFL and all this. Now, the fact that it took 15 weeks and it wasn't getting better, that obviously is a concern. But I think at the time, the Colts did what medical people told them was a prudent thing to do, and that is don't consider this to be a career-threatening injury. And quite honestly, I'm not sure. I know I've read a lot of dire things from a lot of spine people, but I've talked to a spine specialist who's done this surgery many times, and he said this is absolutely not a career-threatening injury.
That's good news. So at the end of the day, Peter, Peyton Manning will be a top blank quarterback this season. Can you give us a prediction?
I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't play at all this year. But again, I think it's hard to know that because, look, the minimum amount of time that something like this, that you can come back from something like this, is really between 2 and 3 months, and that in the 3-month part of it is much more logical. 3 months puts them, in early December. If the Colts are a bad team this year and the season's hopeless, I wouldn't see any reason why you'd put Peyton Manning back in there. But that's the big question. The big question is, when's he going to be ready? What situation will the Colts be in when he is ready?
Peter, speaking of AFC South quarterbacks, how surprised were you at the move Jacksonville made to cut David Garrard, and is there an outward chance, or do we have cap issues per se, that we could possibly see a situation of David Garrard being in a Colts uniform in 3-4 weeks?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Bill Polian told me he doesn't have any interest in Garrard, at least right now. And look, if I were Garrard, the smartest thing is to go somewhere that gives you a chance to play this year and beyond, rather than to make this a Scotch tape year. So if I'm him, I'm looking at places where they don't have their quarterback situation solidified for the future, and I doubt I'd be looking at Indianapolis.
You're listening to Chalk Them Up on WPGU 107.1. We're joined by Sports Illustrated senior writer Peter King. So we started the NFL season. We're underway, and I think someone on NBC said the defenses were still locked out on the first night of the game. So that last play of the game in the fourth quarter has to be in Breeze's hands, right? How could Sean Payton tell that?
It's interesting. Late in the third quarter, when they've got the 4th Why don't you send Mark Ingram behind those big guards? Nix and Evans. But look, the big problem with his call late in the third quarter is that obviously they didn't account for the blitzers, which in a situation like that, especially if you're just trying to get short yardage, you either have to call for something very short, very quick opening, or you have to run the ball. And I think, in retrospect,